Live from the Charity No Talent Night, this is the Best Care Anywhere podcast. I am your MC and host, Anthony, and our first act, reading the Silmarillion in Old Norse, is Jaski.
What'd it do?
I didn't know what I was expecting, and that wasn't it. But okay. And the newest graduate of the AAA High School Diploma Company of Delavan, Indiana, it's Wilson.
Let me get this straight. When Hawkeye Pierce walks into the mess hall, stark raving naked, it's a good joke and a $50 bet. But when I do it...
Is this going to be your new joke format for every intro?
Not every intro, I just felt like doing
I
it
believe last episode you wanted to exhume McLean Stevenson's corpse and harass it, if I'm remembering correctly.
We need our legal team to step in on that one real quick and just say
no,
that.
I think you clearly said you wanted to exhume McLean Stevenson and do a seance and summon him again. But hey, you do you, and the authorities will be in contact with you shortly, I'm sure. Gentlemen, how are you? How goes it? How's the new year treating you?
Fizzy.
Excuse me? Fizzy?
Fizzy.
Did he stutter?
I heard fizzy with an F.
Yep.
Okay, explain, because you don't like fizzy. Fizzy, you're a non-carbonated boy.
No. I'm not consuming the fizzy. I just feel fizzy.
You feel fizzy. That seems
2023
concerning.
is fizzing like a lit bomb. It's fizzing.
Okay, I'm stun-locked a little bit. I'm scared. I feel like he's getting back at me for Canvas Xanadu a little bit. But all right. Ethan, how are you?
Nope.
God, no, you got nothing? You're not going to save me from this?
He's too scared of the fizzing.
Yeah, you can't expect me to follow up that act. You're on your own, bud.
All right, well...
How are you doing, Red?
I'm confused. I'm good. Things are good. I spent the last week dragging myself back into a normal sleep schedule.
Good.
I have learned I learned the hard way. It is easier to push sleep out further and further until you get it back where you want it, as opposed to try to force yourself to wake up earlier and earlier, which means sometime between Thursday and Friday, there was just a day that kind of didn't exist because my sleep schedule was all messed up. And yesterday was the worst because I woke up at the time I wanted to, but I didn't get as much sleep as I wanted to. So the hardest part is that last night when you want to take a nap at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But if you do, you fucked up the entire week you've spent trying to get your sleep schedule in order. So that was fun. That was a time. But yeah. So we're back after a MASH break. I liked the MASH break. Now that I've had some time to process it, I liked having an episode where we kind of took a breath and talked about some other things. We might have to make that a semi-regular occurrence to keep our brains from turning into olive drab mush. That was a nice change of pace. Mush.
Did the fans enjoy it?
The fans did enjoy it, and I did want to say thank you very much to the fans who commented and shared and gave us props for that. I also need to apologize to someone because I read all the Twitter comments and I had the YouTube page pulled up, and I completely forgot to acknowledge someone who gave us a list of their favorite media and completely forgot to read it. So, Chad Smith, I'm so sorry. I feel so bad.
We ignored Chad Smith?
We ignored Chad completely.
Shame. Shame.
It's not very Chad of us, is it?
It is not very Chad of us. So his new to him media that he shared was, I don't know if this movie is supposed to be pronounced RRR or triple R, but it's on Netflix. It is he describes it as an alternate history Indian action epic where every scene is completely bonkers in all the best ways.
Oh,
Wait, is
I've
it
seen that
Bollywood?
meme. Yep, it is something else.
For TV, he said he's enjoying What We Do in the Shadows, a vampire sitcom shot documentary style like
Ooh,
The Office and
yes.
Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Last summer was season 4 and it keeps
Very
getting
funny.
better. I have seen clips from this show and I might have to
is
watch
quite
it.
funny. Yeah.
I like I like the kind of dry humor that it seems to have.
I can share my streaming account password with you, and you can partake of it.
Oh, is it on Netflix? Or is it? I have access to my.
Read between the lines here. Come on.
Oh yeah, yes, your streaming account. Yes.
There you
Yes.
go.
Yes. For music, I just have to point this out. Budgie is an obscure Welsh rock metal band, mostly active in the 70s, that the algorithm gods brought to me last year, he says. Specific songs to check out are I Can't See My Feelings, Parents, and Panzer Division Destroyed. One of those is not like the other two.
You have no idea how loud I'm going to listen to this as soon as we're done here.
Yeah.
Do you speak Welsh? Does he speak Welsh?
Do they sing in Welsh? Are they just from Wales? I don't know. All these
Many
questions more.
I need answered.
All these questions and more will be answered. He also called me out on something I forgot when we did Sometimes You Hear the Bullet. I was so enamored with talking about Ron Howard that I forgot to mention the other TV show he is most well known for other than the Andy Griffith Show. That would be the many, many seasons he spent on Happy Days. He spent 7 seasons on Happy Days, which was another big juggernaut of American television around the same time. So yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I love that. That's the thing. I love forgetting things and our audience reminding me because it keeps me humble. It keeps me from my head
Stay
getting
humble.
too big. Yeah, stay humble, kings. Anyway, Donut Eater also mentioned. He said we had great discussions for the episode. Where did he put this? There we go. He said he was going to comment about wondering if Ethan had seen the movie My Darling Clementine and how it would change how he watched a future episode of the show. But then I brought it up, and we're going to watch it when we get to that point. He says he liked that, Jared, that you mentioned Cyberpunk, Edge Runners, Arcane, Castlevania, all great animated shows. And though he's not familiar with the source material for the first two, they did a great job drawing him into their respective worlds and stories.
Oh, absolutely.
And he's glad that I liked The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and he was wondering if I was considering reading The Silmarillion. At some point, yes.
Let's put that on the to-do list in like 10 years. We'll get to that.
Yeah, I would like to reread The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings a couple times to where I know the story off the back of my hand a little more readily I read the Silmarillion. Does that make sense?
Like,
I want to be.
We will all be dead in 10 years. Comment. But
I mean,
yes,
I'm trying not to think about that. Really, really what's happening is we're trying to see what's going to happen first: the end of the world or the end of this podcast. Place your bets now.
Place your bets now, people.
Please don't
gambling.
encourage that. I have a crippling gambling addiction.
Want to bet on that?
Yeah.
God damn it. But yes, at some point I will read the Silmarillion. I think I need to get a little more. I need to reread the books again a couple times. I think
Definitely.
so that the Silmarillion makes sense. If
You
a little
need to
bit.
have your little page of sticky notes you can just label every other page with. And
the thing that scares me about it is I've read and have been told that it is like trying to read the Bible, but for
yes,
yeah.
that is an accurate.
It's not written like a story in a traditional sense.
No.
It's written like a religious text.
Yeah, it's not a novel with like one. It's not a novel with like one story arc. No.
So
yes, very interesting.
All right. So yeah,
I'm scared.
long story short, mash breaks. We're gonna maybe do them at least once a season to help our brains not explode from MASH stuff. But that's not applicable for this week because we're going to talk about MASH again. Hooray! So, this week's episode is Dear Dad Again! Season 1, episode 18. We're already back to another Dear Dad episode. And I will ask, did you expect we would get another Dear Dad episode so soon after the first one? I think we're only like 6 or 7 episodes removed.
No.
No?
Did not expect that. Yeah. It's
'Cause
a bit surprising. Surprising. They reuse the same format so quickly.
Yeah, because again, the thing I've mentioned a couple times is I forget when, especially the season 1 episodes, there's been a couple that I'm like, oh yeah, this is a season 1 episode, is it? And I kind of did the same thing where I'm like, oh yeah, there's 2 Dear Dad episodes in season 1. And after watching the episode back earlier today, not that big of a deal that it's a similar format again, in all honesty. In fact, I think it's a nice palate cleanser right after it's the first very serious episode. So yeah, I was surprised to see the format come up again so soon, but also it wasn't that big of a deal. But Dear Dad Again aired on February 4th, 1973, written by Sheldon, Keller, and directed by Jackie Cooper. Jackie Cooper, this is his second of 13 MASHes. The one he did before this was The Ring Banger. And Sheldon Keller, this is his first of 4 MASHes that he will help write or do the story for. Since we're back to MASH after a little break, I'll kind of set everyone in the time frame. This aired on February 4th. 3 days later, on February 7th, the U.S. Senate will vote unanimously to form the Watergate Committee to investigate the Watergate scandal. So yeah, just political nonsense happening in the background. Fun.
Back when the days when scandals actually meant something.
Yes, when putting the word gate behind stuff wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Got it. Idiots calling it Watergate. It's a damn morons. Huh.
Ethan, you're fired.
All right, fair enough.
All right. Anyway, so, man, you really do just say stuff that completely derails my train of thought, or derails my train of thought.
That's why I'm here.
All right. So the episode opens with Hawkeye once again writing a letter to his dearest papa. He mentions that things are all the same at the 477th. The fighting goes on, hatred, the violence, the brutality, men behaving like animals, and then there's the war. I always loved that opening. I think that's a great little subversion.
The war.
Oh, God damn it. I haven't thought about that in a long time. Nothing too crazy going on at the start. We got surgery. We got Frank being snotty. We got Hawkeye being
standard stuff.
Bog standard operating scene. Now, I will say I don't know if it's because the last episode was Sometimes You Hear the Bullet, but I feel like after the kind of drama of Sometimes You Hear the Bullet, I feel like the OR takes on a very different feeling. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like now that a character, again, I say a character, it's a character we met for 3 minutes, but now that we've actually seen someone die on an operating table, I feel like seeing the operating room again is like, oh yeah, there's just a little bit more of a sense of, oh yeah, there are people on those tables who could very easily die in the next few seconds, minutes, whatever. I don't know. It's just a sense I got like, oh yeah, this episode literally starts in the operating room. And the last time we were in the operating room, it was very, very heavy. So I don't know. Just something I thought about. I don't know if anyone else gets that same feeling.
I mean, not really with the dialogue that's happening, but
I mean, sure.
if it was different
the dialogue isn't
maybe.
helping.
Yeah.
Hawkeye is explaining that same old, but there's something new, something that's not very common as of our viewing of the show. there's help. There's some extra help in the operating room.
There's a
new
strange
surgeon.
man.
There's a strange man. A new surgeon named Captain Casey, who Hawkeye says, quote, is every bit as good as I am, and I'll get him for it. We'll come back to Captain Casey in a little bit, but I will mention that he is played by an actor named Alex Hentelhoff. This is his first and only MASH. He is another, again, sound like a broken record. He is yet another one of these, I don't want to say bit actors, but one or two episodes of random TV shows here and there. In the background, on IMDb, the thing that he worked on for the longest period of time and was in the most episodes of was The Betty White Show, which just gives me an excuse to talk about Betty White. May she rest in peace. I'm sure she's kicking it up there in heaven, causing all sorts of mischief. He was also a character named Nichols in Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home. So yeah, we'll I think one of us has a lot to say about his character here in a little bit, but we will wait for the appropriate moment for that. The camp's getting shelled. Generator gets knocked out. Henry is being Henry, taking charge. Frank is being a ninny, and Hawkeye's cracking jokes. So everyone's very much doing the
MASH.
Standard MASH. I do love that Frank asks Hawkeye, "Oh, can't you be serious for once?" I tried it once. Everyone laughed. Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
So yeah, bog standard OR scene, which I wanted to get through fairly quickly because then we come to. I'm so glad he's back. Corporal Klinger has returned, and he is giving us an opportunity that we haven't had in a while because we've only seen him in. I think this is only the third episode we see him in. Now that I think about it, because we see him in Chief Surgeon Who in the WAC uniform.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the grenade in. It was in Dear Dad that he had the grenade, and he's back again wearing one of his better outfits. Actually, the white wedding gown, very beautiful.
He's a virgin. He's entitled.
He's entitled to the white wedding gown because he's a virgin. I love the way this shot. I love. The nice thing about having the mesh side tents is you can frame very weird shots. And I love the shot of Hawkeye writing the letter to his dad. And you just see Klinger emerge from behind Hawkeye's head and just start walking toward the tent. And you see Hawkeye writing and he's narrating, looks up. Here comes Corporal Klinger. He just kind of looks up, does a pause, and just goes, huh. Anyway, so Klinger... And I've used this, I know you guys have heard me use this term, it's tasteful without being gaudy, which is true. The white wedding dress is it's flattering on him. He wears it well. But Hawkeye does have a point. He has to wear a slip. I did want to point out, this is more, I'm impressed with how quickly they seem to have nailed Klinger's character down. Because we saw him in Chief Surgeon Who, and I believe I talked about how they had to reshoot the scene where he talks to General Barker for the first time because the initial time they filmed it, it came off a little too effeminate, a little too homosexual for Larry Gelbart's taste. So he reworked it a little bit. And then we got in the last Dear Dad, we got kind of Klinger as the crazy fly off the handle, mentally unstable person that will go grab a live grenade to settle a dispute between him and Frank. This is more Klinger as we're going to see him the rest of the show. He is, or at least for a good chunk of the rest of the show, he is wearing dresses, but he's still going about his everyday life as if he's just normal, and he's just waiting for the right person to see him in a dress and be outraged and kick him out of the army, which is his ultimate goal. He's not actually crazy. He's not actually effeminate. It is literally just, I'm wearing the dress because I want someone to kick me out of the army. So I was impressed at how quickly they nailed that down. He's very, like, even him telling Hawkeye, like, I'm entitled, I'm a virgin, is very tongue-in-cheek, like, I'm just wearing this to get out. Shut up. So yeah, Klinger in a wedding dress. After that, we get Father Mulcahy again. Hello, Father Mulcahy. And he is planting some flowers, which leads to his back hurting. But don't worry, Captain Dr. Casey is here to solve all of his troubles. So they go in the tent, he fixes his back, and Casey has a moment of weakness and asks Father Mulcahy if he could confess something to him, and he specifically asks him to treat it as a confessional. I would assume you two are familiar with the idea of confession in the Catholic Church.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Essentially it's supposed to be anonymous, but not super easy for Father Mulcahy because, you know, he's the only priest in the outfit. But essentially the confessional is meant to be anonymous and private. It is meant to be a place you can air your issues without fear of receiving retribution, no matter how bad that confession may be, which is problematic, and we'll talk about it a little later, because Casey confesses to not being a doctor. And I love William Christopher's reaction of you just made my spine do things. Oh no. But I know someone, I hear papers shuffling in the background. So first of all, what do y'all think when Casey's like, "Oh, I'm not a doctor"?
I thought, oh boy, I know the real life events this is based off of.
Did you okay? Did you actually know beforehand the real life events, or did you look it up in hindsight?
No, another podcast that I listened to called The Dollop. It's a history podcast. Enlightened me as to a certain Ferdinand Fred Demara.
Why don't you tell us about Ferdinand Demara, because he is the direct inspiration for Captain Casey's character.
Well, if you'd like, I have a little spiel actually written down.
Please enlighten us. Ethan's History Corner.
On July 20th, 1951, the Canadian tribal-class destroyer Cayuga arrived off of the western coast of Korea for her second tour of duty in the Korean War. On board were 285 souls, including Surgeon Lieutenant Joseph C. Sear, a Canadian surgeon and the ship's head doctor. In late September of that same year, following a bombardment and raid of an enemy position, a South Korean junk with 3 wounded guerrilla fighters pulled alongside, seeking medical treatment. All 3 of these guerrillas were very seriously injured. However, one of them had a bullet in his chest lodged just below his heart. This was problematic for a couple of reasons. First of all, the Cayuga was not properly equipped to sterilize instruments in any meaningful capacity, and they also didn't have any sterile place to perform the operation. However, Sear, waving those problems aside, got a table ready, his instruments out, and on the main deck of the ship, in front of almost the entire crew, he cut the chest along the sternum, cut a rib, and removed the bullet. Once the bullet was out, Sear clotted the wound with gel and sewed up the gorilla, who 12 hours later walked off the ship in good health. Sear, being a very good doctor, about a week later went off the Cayuga onto the shore to go check on his patient, who was recovering at a South Korean aid station. Sear was so offended at the abysmal conditions and lack of sanitation in the first aid station that he volunteered to help out. And during this time, it is estimated that he performed 60 procedures, ranging from small injuries all the way up to amputations. All of this is very nice and very wonderful. The only problem with this is Medical Officer Joseph C. Sears' real name was Ferdinand Fred Demara, an American and pathological imposter with no formal medical training. The real Dr. Sear was back in Canada practicing medicine. Fred had met him during his time as a monk under a different name. So, Dr. Sear is just minding his own business. And naturally, Fred is performing all these acts of heroism. So the Canadian Naval Corps gets a hold of Fred, and they want to write a story about his exploit. First the surgery, and then all the volunteer work he's doing. That story made it into Canadian newspapers, where the real Dr. Sear reads about himself and called the Canadian Navy.
Oh no.
Um,
What's the actual hell?
So, after word got back to the Navy, Damara was sent back to Canada, where he was relieved of his duty and deported back to the U.S. because he had been such a good doctor during his time. The only thing they charged him with was false enlistment, and they deported him back to the U.S. after paying him his full salary.
Oh my god.
Just to be clear, his full salary deported back to the U.S. Damara was so well liked among his crewmates that they sent him a Christmas card after his true identity was revealed, saying, "We don't care what your name is, you're still our friend."
Aw.
Oh, that's
Canadians
nice.
Canadians are too nice.
During his life, Fred Damara impersonated a Navy corpsman, a psychology professor, a deputy, an assistant prison warden, and a monk at several different orders, each time under an assumed name. He died in 1982 due to complications of diabetes at the Good Samaritan Hospital in Orange County, where he spent his last days as a chaplain under his real name.
Okay, under his real name. There you go. Okay. That's a lot. How do you fucking do that? How How does
Just to be
no-
clear, so this was back before electronic record keeping. He would find people he wanted to impersonate in newspapers or college bulletins and call the various offices with a sob story about how he lost his birth certificate and get all the credentials he needed. He claimed that if he really put his mind to it, he could get all the paperwork needed in 10 days.
Jesus. That's insane. Do you think you could even possibly get away with that today?
No,
Did you
not
not
a
hear
chance.
about Dr. Love?
Dr.
Oh
Love.
Jesus! Please tell me about Dr. You can't start.
And a 17-year-old, I believe, maybe an 18-year-old. He was a 17 or 18-year-old child, I believe, in Florida, because of course it was in Florida.
Of course.
Just decided he was going to become a doctor. So he got a lab coat, special order, with his name embroidered on it, and just opened up a practice and started to pretend to be a doctor. He just kept acting like he was a doctor, and it kept working. According to it didn't last very long, obviously, because he has a baby face. He looks like he's 16. But yeah, he was successful for a brief period of time. But according to the local hospital, he was not allowed near any patients. He did not actually perform any procedures on any patients. So
Yeah. Wow.
but still,
This is like the advanced
consultations.
version. It's like the advanced version of if you have a reflective vest and a ladder, you can go anywhere.
That's how I've stolen all of my road signs in GTA 5.
Because when I think of like serial imposter, but this also had a criminal fraud and embezzlement part to it, I think of Frank Abagnale.
Yeah.
Catch Me If You Can, which, yeah. Could you guys do that? Do you guys think if tomorrow you had to completely wipe, I mean, not completely wipe, but if you tomorrow were like, hey, I'm going to go reinvent myself and completely make it, could you do it?
No.
Do you think you
I
have
do not know enough about computers or the internet. I would not have a shot. I could disappear for an amount of time, but I could not reinvent myself with a new name.
Could you have done it in the 50s?
Absolutely.
And I don't just mean could you have done it, like theoretically, like morally could you have done it? Like, I'm not saying like, yeah, it's possible to do it. I'm saying, could you specifically make that decision to do it?
Also, it depends on what you're impersonating. Like, are you impersonating like a doctor or just like
like a Sunday school teacher? Yeah,
exactly. Like, yeah, the big difference there.
I'd say like you have whatever the mental or whatever compulsion these people have to. If I'm gonna reinvent myself, I'm gonna reinvent myself as what airway, whatever, Pan Am. I'm gonna reinvent myself as a Pan Am pilot. I'm gonna reinvent myself as a doctor, as a lawyer, because like no one's reinventing themselves and being a diner line cook. Could you? I can't wrap my head around what would possess someone to do that, other than the thrill of doing it, I guess.
Well,
that's about it. Yeah.
I mean, from a personal standpoint, whenever I've tried to do it, the thrill has always been, outweighed by the fucking, oh my god, I'm gonna get caught, oh my god, just the anxiety of it all. That I couldn't, get over.
I think I could deal with the anxiety. I think I could pull off the, I don't know the word, but like the attitude, like the bravado you would have to have, the amount of self-confidence you would need to be able to do it. The part I could not get, and it's still a scene that makes me uncomfortable to watch when I watch Catch Me If You Can. You know the scene where he impersonates being the French substitute teacher?
Oh yeah, that
very early in the movie, and the little old lady who's supposed to be subbing comes in. He's like, "Oh no, they called me in," and she gets upset because she drove like an hour to make like barely enough money to cover her trip there, and now and she gets upset and like starts crying and stuff. Like, I couldn't do that shit. I could not be that much of a compulsive liar to the point where I would have to knowingly like fuck people over. That's where I would draw the line. Like, I could fake being a doctor right up until I had to give a patient like actual medical advice or cut into them or something. It's like, no, I have reached a level of discomfort with this charade that I am no longer comfortable continuing.
Well,
but
in Fred's case, the crazy thing is he did a lot. He also, during his time on that ship, pulled the tooth of the captain, who later remarked that it was the most comfortable tooth pulling he had ever had.
Good Lord.
And the way that, from what I've been able to find, he's done it, is he would just step away for a cigarette or some other reason and use his photographic memory to just look at what he needed to do, and for just a few minutes before he had to do it.
Jeez. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think the average person could do it. I think you need to have something that drives you or possesses you, or some like people. Like, it's kind of like people who just can count cards. They just can. You can teach yourself to do it, but the people who are really good at it just can. They can look at a table and they can, after a couple hands, they know exactly what's in the shoe, exactly what everyone's hand is, because they just do it automatically in their head. They can't help but do it. I think you need something similar to that, kind of like a Frank Abagnale or this Demara guy, who it's not something that they're choosing to do. It's like, I am innately compulsed to do this because it's just the way I am. But yeah, that's crazy. That's insanity. I pulled his Wikipedia page, and I think my favorite fact about him is, after all this happened, he was well known enough that he couldn't really get away with doing it anymore. He appeared on a TV quiz show called You Bet Your Life with Groucho Marx. Demara recounted his exploits, and he said that the $1,000 he earned on the program was going to be donated to the Feed and Clothe Fred Demara Fund. Which leads me to my next thing. We are starting a 501c3 nonprofit charity called Feed and Clothe Jasky, Wilson, and Anthony Fund. If you would like to donate, please reach out to us.
Don't let your local Wilson starve.
Our Venmos are scrolling across the bottom of the YouTube video now.
No.
No. So yeah, Ethan, thank you for sharing that. I know you've been like chomping at the bit for the last 5 episodes to talk
I've been
about this.
dying to give that little spiel. So thank you for indulging me and my little rant. Both
Yeah,
of you.
because yeah, if believe me, if I could just like relocate somewhere and just hit the reset button on life, I wouldn't say no, but yeah, these guys are doing it to an extreme. So anyway, pulling back to the MASH episode, Captain Casey has just admitted not all that, but the fact that he is an imposter and is not a doctor to Father Mulcahy, who reacts as one would when the doctor who just jiggled their spine aggressively says, I actually have no idea what I'm doing. So yeah, this is good. Moving on from that, Hawkeye says everyone is bored in camp. Everyone's like just so in the mundane everyday monotony that nothing phases anyone anymore. And he bets Trapper $50 that he could walk into the mess tent completely stark naked and no one would pay any attention to him.
No one would bat an eye.
Which, what would possess you to think that's a good idea? Like,
It's Hawkeye.
It's
Gin.
Gin. Both correct. Both times. So next scene we see is him preparing to do the deed. I do like the touch of wearing the like dress uniform hat with his rank. That's nice. That's a nice touch.
That's tasteful without being gaudy.
Yeah, we then get the stereotypical everyone in the surrounding
moving a board.
2 people moving an
like
object
multiple
directly.
Times. It's beautiful. I love the visual gag.
Also, it's 1970s camera work and setup. Very clearly, you can see his boxer shorts in a couple shots. Who cares? It's so ridiculous. Who cares? He successfully makes it into the mess tent, and no one does notice him for a minute until a very conveniently placed, and I do love Trapper comes in behind him and is like, what the actual hell? No one is reacting to this. And he even starts to get his wallet out like, I'm just going to give you $50. And then a soldier walks up, sees him, and just drops his tray. Fun fact, that soldier is an actor named Roy Goldman, who will be a reappearing character in MASH. He is one of the go-to orderlies, kind of like a Klinger, except he's not a main character, basically. He's like Diet Klinger. He's just always there.
Klinger.
This is his first appearance, I believe, in 71 episodes. The actor's name is Roy Goldman. The character's name is Roy Goldman. You can tell that you're not a main character of the show when they're like, "What's my character's name? What's your name? Roy Goldman." Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
But this is first of 71 MASH episodes. He was in 85 episodes of Hogan's Heroes as various background parts. He was also in 8 episodes of Cheers, credited as bar patron each time. So he's just a random dude at the bar in Cheers a couple times.
Good for him.
So yeah, Roy Goldman. He will make it all the way to the series finale, where he actually has a speaking part in a very touching scene with everyone. So yeah, Roy Goldman. Everybody, look at him having to stare at Hawkeye's nude male form. Anything to make money in Hollywood. So Hawkeye loses the bet because as soon as everyone looks up to see what Roy dropped, they noticed Hawkeye is very nude. I do love that Klinger comes up and says this is tasteful without being gaudy while he is wearing a lime green blouse and an orange hat, of all things. But yeah, Hawkeye nude in the mess tent. I'll just check that off my MASH bingo checklist for season 1. Hawkeye then writes to his dad that he thinks Radar has ESP. I love the little gag if he calls Radar a little fink in the letter, and as Radar's walking by, he just stops and goes, "Is that a nice thing to say?"
Radar.
Oh, Radar. Now, I didn't think I wanted to say a lot about this next scene, but I do. The entire AAA high school diploma company of Delavan, Indiana scene. What did you guys think of this little vignette we get with Radar and Henry? What'd you guys think of it?
Initially,
How are we feeling? Initially,
where the hell is this going?
Where the hell is this going? Okay. That's okay. That's a good initial reaction. Because I've seen, again, like with all the episodes, I've seen this so many times, but again, watching it analytically and kind of, paying full attention to it for the first time in a long time, this feels like a skit. This feels like a camp skit.
Yeah.
Where and I think it feels like a good camp skit. I like how it slowly builds up to what the hell is Radar up to? What the hell is Henry signing? Henry realizes what he's signing and says, no, that's dishonest. Sit down, you're taking the test. Radar's comically nervous. He gives Radar the questions. Radar memorized the answers, but in the wrong order. And I think it peaks when he gives him the two dates, 1492 and 1776. And as he's reading the rest of the question, Radar's just like, I know, 4,178 or whatever it is. And you see Henry just give up. He's just like, no, I'm not doing this today. I love how it, like you said, Jared, it starts out with where the hell is this going? And it ends, it's just a good comedic scene. Like, this could have been just a short on its own. If that was a thing MASH did, just had little shorts. This one scene could have been just its own little thing. And I'm sure, like a lot of the Dear Whoever episodes, a lot of the Letter Home episodes, I'm sure this was a scene that someone thought of and they couldn't fit it in any other episode, so they just put it in here. They probably someone thought, oh, wouldn't it be funny if Trapper bet Hawkeye he could, walk, or Hawkeye would bet Trapper he could walk naked through the mess tent and no one would notice. But they couldn't fit it in an episode anywhere where it made sense. So this scenes like this are why I love the Letter Home, the Dear Whoever episodes, because it gives you a chance for the writers just to have these dumb little scenes that they're not important, but they're just so fun. They're so stupid and fun. So yeah, I like the Henry Radar comedy scenes very much. McLean Stevenson is a gem.
And then we get 5 minutes of alcoholic Frank.
Oh, Drunk Frank is my favorite. Drunk Frank is my favorite thing. God. So yeah, Frank and Hot Lips get in a little argument. Frank comes back to the swamp. Hawkeye is telling just the dumbest knock-knock jokes, and I've absolutely stolen them and used them on people. And before we get to Drunk Frank, I will say sometimes you feel like Hawkeye and you're the funniest person in the world. And sometimes you're stuck in Trapper's position where you're stuck in a room with someone who thinks you're the funniest person in the world and you're just like, shut up.
Yeah.
Just shut up.
Yeah.
I feel like we all three collectively cycle through those roles on any given day.
Yeah.
I like Trapper's Hawkeye. I never liked you. So Frank comes in. He's upset. And he says he wants a drink, which shocks both of our dynamic duo here. They give Frank a martini. He gulps it down like it's the first thing he's drunk in years. And then we fast forward to the night where Frank has clearly drank most of that day's still production of gin. And he is just...
My man is sloshed.
He is sloshed. I particularly like the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. I got a girl in Kalamazoo. Frank, Zoo. This is another one of those. I'm sure someone said, what if we got Frank drunk and they couldn't fit it into an episode anywhere? So they just wrote this vignette and said, put it in a Dear Dad episode. It's great. And I hate to admit this, I've only been truly, I don't want to say inebriated is the right word, but it wasn't of my own doing. I have only been not in control of my senses as an adult one time, and that was after major surgery, and I was still coming down off of the anesthetic. I am not a property destroying drunk. I am not a angry drunk. I'm not an I love you drunk. I am a frank, my mouth will continue to move until I pass out drunk. I am we're singing songs. I'm telling you my life story. I'm asking you questions. I think the drive back from the Kaiser outpatient procedure to back to the house, that 30-minute drive, I probably spoke more to my dad in that 30-minute drive than I had the whole rest of that year. I think I'm like, hey, look at that billboard. And my dad, by the end of that drive, my dad's like, you're going to sleep. I'm giving you a handful of these pills the doctor gave me. You are going to sleep.
Zoo.
A couple hours. Zoo. Exactly. We do get something in this scene that will carry us through for the next 4.5 seasons. Frank gets a little too. Frank gets a little too revealing drunk. He starts sharing stories, and one of the stories he shares is that his older brother used to call him names, and one of those names was Ferret Face, and thus
Ferret Face.
And thus a tradition was born, and Frank will be referred to as Ferret Face the entire rest of his time on the show.
Really?
And then we get to Frank is screaming at the top of his lungs in the middle of the night, and I can only imagine, is this what living on Staff Hill at camp was like?
Yes.
Just come on, guys, let's do something. Shut up. Yeah, why don't you come in here and say that?
It's the people getting back from staff training, arguing about Lego sets and the Mel's Diner meal price, followed by somebody yelling to shut the fuck up, followed by them saying, "Oh yeah,
Scouts in the bushes."
Yeah, exactly. And then somebody else saying Flags is in 2 hours or something like that.
Flags is in 2 hours. Go to sleep.
Yeah.
People who go to Flags. Anyway,
Ben somewhere just sneezed.
Ben somewhere is. Oh God, Ben is typing. Oh no.
Ben's in the bushes, boys.
I love that Frank's like, well then what should I do? Fall down, Frank. Oh. Larry Linville, and he doesn't have to swing his arms up and hit the lamp, but he does, and it's chef's kiss. It's beautiful. Larry Linville is also a treasure, and I miss him dearly.
Yeah.
Following that, we get Radar looking concerned, as Radar is prone to do. Hawkeye is doing his best impersonation of the Becky Let Me Smash Bird meme. But long story short, Radar hands Hawkeye the Provost Marshal's bulletin on Captain Casey for going around and impersonating various officer level professions, including bridge engineer, doctor, etc., etc., etc. But he can't stop Captain Casey right now because wounded are coming. And I love the way Hawkeye handles this. But the thing I'm interested to know is, should Father Mulcahy have turned him in? What do you guys think? Because I know none of us are particularly religious, but
in the context of him working in a medical field,
probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, he probably should have been like, yeah, okay, I won't turn you in. Don't operate on any more patients.
Mm-hmm.
Or something along those lines, you know?
I mean, even if that was Go ahead, Ethan.
From an ethical standpoint, probably, but real Catholic priests treat confession with a lot of reverence, I suppose you could call it.
Oh, yes.
And Father Mulcahy, we'll see in future episodes, he does as well. He treats. I've said this before. One of my favorite things about Father Mulcahy is he is very dedicated to his profession, and in the way that you would hope all men of the cloth are.
Mm.
But he is dedicated. We're going to see episodes where he's dedicated his heart's in the right place, but if objectively he's in the wrong, or he is going too far out on a limb. To play the Lord's advocate real quick. Think about where Father Mulcahy is. He is agreed that he would treat whatever Captain Casey said as a confession. If he flips on that, he is just announced to the camp at large, my confessions are not necessarily private anymore, which is not great because that's the whole point. But yeah, I don't want to say it's a moral gray area because to me it makes sense. Like, yeah, don't let the man cut into living people if he is not certified to do so. But yeah, but the other thing is also season 1, Father Mulcahy is very I don't want to say goody two shoes, but very naive Father Mulcahy. He's kind of the nice, slightly bumbling priest. He doesn't have that much depth yet. So, but yeah, I don't know. I thought it was interesting to ask the question of should Father Mulcahy have turned him in, but
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter because Hawkeye has found out, and Hawkeye, I love how Hawkeye handles it. Because he's like, Captain, let me help you with that. No, I've got it. Let me help you, Sergeant. And Casey's like, look. Another instance of great acting when all we can see is their eyes. You just see his eyes go wide, and he's like, oh no, I'm about to get got. But to Hawkeye's credit, he recognizes that Casey is genuinely good at practicing medicine, and he says, be off the base, never touch a patient again, but when you do get a medical license, call me because you are a damn good surgeon. And he encourages him to go get the medical license, but Casey says something here that's very interesting because Hawkeye asks him, why do you do it? And he responds with, I can do it. I can do it all. It comes to me naturally, but I just don't have the patience to go through the correct channels to get the paperwork, the license, the certificate, the whatever. Which I thought was interesting. It's kind of like we talked about a little while ago with Frederick. Yeah, I think it's crazy to think that you have so much talent and can do all these things, but not the patience to. You want to do everything, not focus on one thing and do it well. That I don't know. I found it interesting.
It's a good line.
Mm-hmm. I can do it all. But he said, but Hawkeye makes the deal with him, like, get out of here. I won't rat you out, but you need to stop. No more medicine. Stop with the medicine. That's dangerous. And he says, good luck, Casey. And I love that they just end with, it's Schwartz, actually. And he walks off, and Hawkeye's just looking there like, Schwartz? He should have stuck with Casey. We then come to a scene that has no reason to exist other than the fact that the writers wanted it to exist, and that's the Charity No Talent Night. I love the Charity No Talent Night. Father Mulcahy is hosting it. It's to raise money for the orphans, as as you should. You should raise money for the orphans. They raised $300 for the Korean Refugee Fund, and someone who would like to remain anonymous donated $5 to Israel, which Class A joke. I love that. We then get Hawkeye Pierce and his swinging surgeons under the direction of Colonel Blake. And this is, again, there's no reason this needs to be in the episode. It's just dumb fun. And I love when MASH just has dumb fun. You have Hot Lips singing My Blue Heaven atrociously. You have all the out-of-tune instruments. You have Hawkeye playing a surgical tube, bed post, water bucket bass. And you have Radar playing the drums with a piece of typewriter paper with radar written on the front of it. It's so dumb, but I love it so much. and we're way far away from it, but the people who have watched MASH through before knows there is literally an entire episode where it's just the cast or the camp having dumb fun while trying to watch a movie. That's all the episode is, and it's such a fun episode to watch. So I love when MASH does the silly, dumb stuff like this.
Love Henry's conducting. It's
Yeah,
so
he just
terrible.
kind of just bobbing his head. Hawkeye has to come in and start singing over Margaret because she starts on the wrong lines. There is some fun little MASH trivia though in this scene. I'm gonna ask you this: is the music recorded over, or is it being played live?
Oh man, I didn't even think about that.
Because Gary Burghoff is actually playing the drums in this scene.
Yeah.
All the drum noises is him actually playing the drums.
Yeah.
Because
I'd be surprised if like they dubbed over like maybe one or two of the instruments, but like they are actually playing it live.
Yeah. Gary Burghoff is drumming because Gary Burghoff was in a band prior to his MASH fame.
Got the little riff at the end. It was just a little too well done for him to have been playing so terribly at the beginning.
Gary Burghoff was in a band called The Relatives in the late 60s, 68, 69, before he got his gig in the MASH movie in 1970. They toured around a little bit. They opened the set. They opened the sets in the evenings for various bigger acts at the Sahara in Vegas a couple times. Wow. And he was one of the other bandmates was a young woman named Linda Carter, who would later go on to her claim to fame as being Wonder Woman in the Wonder Woman TV series of the 1970s, where she would end up meeting Gary Burghoff again when he had a acting role in one of the episodes. But yeah, Gary Burghoff actually plays the drums. There is another fun fact about, well, I don't want to say it's a fun fact. There is another fun fact about Gary Burghoff. That the show does a very good job of hiding. A very good job of hiding. But particularly in this episode and in the last episode of this season when he's drumming, it is evident to see. Have you noticed that they hide Gary's left hand a lot? Behind clipboards, behind paperwork, out of frame. Have you guys picked up on that at all?
I have not noticed that once, no, but I haven't really been paying attention.
Now that I've said that, you're going to notice it constantly. He was born with, and I'm going to destroy this pronunciation, but it is brachydactyly, I think is how you pronounce it, something along those lines. Please don't destroy me.
Arm something?
It is a medical term that literally means short fingers. It's where you are born with finger bones that are shorter than they should be. So his left hand, and there are times where it's really obvious, like it'll come into frame, or there won't be an opportunity for them to cover it with anything. But it's something that the writers and the film crew just worked around when it came to that. And I think he said in interviews that it's not really that big of a deal. It's just something that's noticeable that they didn't want to highlight because, that'd be mean. But yeah, it's just one of those little things where I think I noticed it in an episode and I'm like, am I seeing this wrong? Is there some weird like film effect going on, or is there something up with his hand? And I looked it up and I'm like, oh, I never knew that. So yeah, now that I've told you that, you guys are going to notice like, dang, his hand is like conspicuously out of frame or covered or something. But yeah, fun facts.
Yes, I'm actively going to be looking for that now. I don't know how I feel about that.
I'm like, I shouldn't tell them. I just shouldn't tell them. But yeah, There's scenes where it's super super obvious and it would have come up anyway, but I figured like, why not? We'll get it out of the way. So yeah, the charity no talent night. I love that it ends with Henry threatening for them to sing it one more time. Captain Casey is leaving camp. He says goodbye to Hawkeye. He says, "Take care, stay away from medicine." He's like, "Oh, not doctor anymore." And he glances down and he's wearing the crucifix, which he had to have stolen from Father Mulcahy. And I love, even when he walks into shot while Mulcahy is still standing there, he has his hands up around his collar, covering the insignia. It's so dumb. It's like, and I love Hawkeye looks at it, looks back up at Casey. "Goodbye, my son."
Well, you have to remember,
and
at
Hawkeye
this
just
point,
watches him walk away, all confused, like, oh boy.
he's gone AWOL not once but twice now, or at least implied twice, because of the Provo Marshal Bulletin. So they don't take too lightly to that.
And that's based on the story you told earlier. That's if he even legally enlisted.
Yeah.
Good Lord. So yeah, that was Dear Dad 2. A lot going on there. I like how this one had a through line. Like, the first Dear Dad didn't really have a through line. Like, the through line was it was Christmas. But this one actually had all these little vignettes going on, but you had the Captain Casey through line that kind of held not everything together, but kind of kept everything moving from a start to a finish. But yeah, I like this. I like the Dear Dad. I like that it was a nice breather after the first very heavy episode MASH did. Yeah, all around I liked it. How'd you guys feel about it? What are the vibes?
It was okay. I think it was very much kind of a dumping ground for scenes that they couldn't fit in anywhere else.
Yeah. But
it's kind of what it felt like. But yeah, it did not have the same kind of tone or feeling as the previous Dear Dad episode. I think I feel like if we had gotten the previous Dear Dad episode where this one was right after
Sometimes You Hear the Bullet.
Sometimes You Hear the Bullet. If we had that order, it would have been significantly more impactful. But since it was, I don't know, it just a bit of a harsh turn. It felt like, but yeah. I don't know. It was okay.
Was it better, or was it on par, better, not as good, would you say, as the other Dear Dad?
I wholeheartedly think the previous one was superior.
Okay. I agree. I tend to agree with that. I think it's helped a lot by the fact that it was Christmas time and everyone loves Christmas. But,
I mean,
you know.
Yes, I'm also a sucker for just like the Crimbus music playing over the speakers. Yes.
Wilson, what about you? What'd you think?
As I've said a million times, and I'll say a million more, I'm a sucker for a show with a lot of good comedy, and I have to imagine that, I should look into the filming order of the first season, but I have to imagine that this was the comic relief for the last episode, and that's why it's where it is.
Let me look.
But actually, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really did.
Interesting. So, broadcast order was Ring Banger, Sometimes You Hear the Bullet, Dear Dad Again, and then the next episode we're going to look at the Long John Flap. Production order was the Ring Banger, this episode, Dear Dad Again, then Sometimes You Hear the Bullet. Which makes sense because the Ring Banger was also directed by Jackie Cooper, so he just came and shot back-to-back episodes. But, yeah. All right. So what would y'all rate this episode?
This one was good. Not average. Above average. But not great. So I'd go for a nice, I don't know, a nice 4, but it's closer to a 3 than a 5.
Okay. Ethan, what about you?
I laughed, I'm biased because I got to nerd out a little bit there. But honestly, Drunk Frank not destroying the still gives this episode a lot of goodwill in my heart. I'm going with a 4.2.
0.2. Ready? I'm right there with you. I'm gonna give it a 4. I think it's not as good as the first Dear Dad, but specifically Drunk Frank, the talent show, and the AAA high school diploma company of Delavan, Indiana give me good vibes, very good vibes. And I like that not just the whole episodes, but individual scenes. You can tell the writing is beautiful, even though those scenes wouldn't have fit in another episode, so they plopped them all together in here. But it works. So yeah, 4. Which means on to the audience. The audience. Oh my God, my Twitter is filled with hashtag The Last of Us. Oh, good Lord.
Thanks, Jared.
It's not Jared's fault. He didn't make the show. While I'm scrolling, Jared, you've seen the first episode of The Last of Us. The other 2 of us have not. And you had not played the games before. And it was one of the things we talked about looking forward to in our previous episode. Do you want to give a brief review of your experience so far?
Yes. It's an excellent adaptation from what I can tell. Didn't play the games, but I've been hearing people that have played the games just say constantly, "Oh my God, it's just like the game. Oh my God, it's just like the game," in a happy way. So they seem to be enjoying it. And if people who are really gung-ho about the source material are enjoying it, and people who have never experienced the source material are also enjoying it, it's got to have something going for it.
Mm-hmm. I am curious to get your opinions on the show as it goes forward, because the nice thing about having played the game is if they're being true to the story, I shouldn't be surprised by anything, but in a way that's good for a piece of media like this. But I am interested to hear your thoughts as the show goes forward, as someone who has no idea what's happening. So
they did a very good job of setting up the show in the first episode, just kind of giving everyone, even if you haven't played the game at all, just an idea of, okay, what's the synopsis? Like, where are the characters? What kind of world are we in? What's the goal here? Why are we here? Why should we care? They do an excellent job of answering that question.
Good. Very good. I have so many more questions to ask you that are spoiler ridden that I will ask off the podcast. But for now, the audience reviews for Dear Dad again. Chad Smith says 4 out of 5. He said in our first episode, you discussed how the show has big scout camp energy, and I immediately thought of the No Talent Night. He said, as an aside, the invisible bench is the platonic ideal of campfire skits.
Ban him.
See,
I will
ban him.
I'm not going to say that on the podcast. Carry on.
So, hang on. In all fairness, as a scout, yes. As a camp staff member who has probably seen the invisible bench skit hundreds of times, we tend to disagree. But hey, there must be something to that if it's being used that much. But anyway.
Yep.
Chad also says it would have been cool to have Casey/Schwartz come back in a later episode, maybe posing as an MP who gets Hawkeye and Trapper out of a jam. That would have been fun.
Damn, if only they had these characters show up for more than one episode. Oh well.
Yeah, but that's going to be a recurring theme until we get to some of the later seasons. MASH is an interesting show because it's taking place right in the middle of this transition from week to week, one episode at a time. They don't necessarily link together TV show to each season. There might be an overarching story or things that are happening. And MASH is going to make that transition a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see. Donny Deer 111 says 4.5, another great use of this format. The vignettes are all really fun. Hawkeye's Naked Walk and the No Talent Night being my favorites. They do a good job integrating an actual plot this time with Casey's story while not taking away from the randomness. I think... Where did... I can't find... This lightsaber kills fascists. Oh, there we go. This lightsaber kills fascists says, I like this one a lot. It has a very surreal stream of consciousness feel to that it appeals to him. It almost feels like the writers had a few strands of stories that couldn't fit in an entire episode, so they used them for these Deer shows. He says 4 out of 4. So I think that means 5 out of 5. I don't...
No, that means 4 out of 4.
Yep.
But, okay. I
Who
will
are
do
we
the
to
math.
say that the listeners made a mistake?
I will do the math to convert that to the 5 out of 5 scale. I need to get my abacus out. But yeah, everyone else, no ratings, but a lot of people had opinions on it. The Letters from Home episodes are more memorable in Concord Catman's opinion. Yeah, everyone likes this episode. It's all right.
Yay.
And everyone agrees Klinger must wear a slip. It's a must.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Dear Dad. The next one is the Long John Flap, which... I don't know. I need to watch that episode again. It's been a while since I've watched this one.
It is one of the episodes of all time.
It is one of... yeah. Yeah, I'm already forming opinions, and
Yeah.
I shouldn't, because I haven't watched that episode in a hot minute. But
Spoiler.
Yeah,
2.
Spoiler?
What? Nothing.
Okay. Anyway, that's been this episode. We've rambled enough. I'm going to go look up what it takes to erase my identity from the internet. I don't know about you guys. I think I'm going to become a used car salesman. That sounds like fun. Let's do that.
I
You
can
can do
slip
that
in,
now.
Jimmy.
Yeah, but one of the like the exotic ones that have like tigers and shit. You know?
Oh,
One of the crazy
Criminals.
used car sales.
hell
Yeah, there you go. All right. Anything else, or should we just get out of here?
Time to skedaddle skadoodle.
All right.
Erase your identity. Operate on people with bullet wounds.
Do not. Nope. 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 Bye, all.
Just act
We're
like you
gone.
belong.
Just act like you belong.
I do.
I don't even
boy.
belong on this podcast. I've just been showing up every time. They haven't asked me who I am yet.
Call the authorities, please. This man is a...
I have no idea who Jasky is. I just keep rolling with it.
Oh boy. I'll cut it off at some point in these ramblings.
Okay, bye.
All right.